Hello. Oh, there we go. Hello everybody. I've decided to do another quick little stream today where I'll be spending about an hour playing some arcade games in MAME. I'm going to start off with one we emulated a few years ago, which is Mega Phoenix, which is an unofficial follow-up to the classic arcade game Phoenix from Spanish developer Dinamic, who were better known for home computer games, and published by Inder, who did more pinball machines than the arcade games, but the combination resulted in at least 2 games, this being one of them. It follows the mould of the original fairly closely. You've got the different waves. And the same type of attack pattern, the same shield. And once you work out how to play it again, it's alright. Obviously the graphics are a bit improved versus the original, with higher colour, better resolution sprites, and it didn't see much distribution outside of Spain from what I'm told. Possibly not even that much there. Some of these maybe are in 1 or 2 arcades. The other game on the same hardware is Hammer Boy, but doesn't make quite as good use of the hardware. Okay, I didn't get very far there. Let's use the continue feature. Obviously, this is just like the bird stage in Phoenix. If you shoot them in the middle, they die instantly. And if you keep dying like I do, then you're not going to get very far at all. Shooting the eggs gives you more points. The wings grow back. They've clearly played Phoenix, and this game was released on the home platforms, such as the Amiga, CPC. The CPC had a very colourful port. I think Spectrum got it too. So maybe people who played the game at home are more familiar with this Mega Phoenix than they were with the original game. Bigger. I guess this is the Mega Phoenix. It's a lot tougher than it should be. But I think that's just because I'm completely out of practice. There are power-ups in this game, but you only get them once per loop, which is an unusual way of doing things. And if you lose them, you lose them. I think this game wasn't that widely distributed. The balance is maybe a little off. Some things like this, that Phoenix there, take too many shots, and that's where you get your power up. And you've got your traditional sort of mothership round again. Should I give that another go from the start? I probably should. I don't know why the graphics are quite so flickery here. They seem to do that when it gets a bit too busy on the screen. I think it's a flaw in the TMS emulation. I can't remember the type. Yeah, the TMS 34010. I think there was some timing issues or partial update issues that cause entire lines to blank out when it gets busy. I'm not sure what the original hardware would do. Maybe you just get a pixel flicker instead. But because MAME draws the screen line in scan lines, it might be causing an entire scan line to black out. If anybody's in the chat, feel free to say hi. I don't know if the chat's working. I did enable it, but if it's not working, it's not working. Forgot to test it, in fact. Let me just test it. Yeah, the chat works. So if anybody is watching and fancies saying hi, then that is an option. I guess, you know, it's a Sunday, maybe people are busy doing other things this week, just today. I do want to complete a loop on this, or at least try to complete a loop on this. The graphics theme on the background scrolling is very noticeable too, but the original is just like that. I guess they just thought nobody would be staring at the background. Why am I so bad at this game? The enemies do seem more aggressive than in the original Phoenix. They move very quickly. There we go, that was a bit better. No. Hey, hello. How are you doing? And if you want to stay quiet, you can stay quiet. Not everybody is always chatty, but sorry. I decided to play this one because I don't think that many people have played it. We emulated it a few years ago, but at the time the sound emulation was really scratchy because the DAC hookup was incorrect. But since then it has been improved, and I've not seen really anywhere cover it since the improvements. I don't think I uploaded a video of it myself. I don't even remember writing about it, so improvements may have gone unnoticed when they happened, which was a few years ago now. the game is naturally letterboxed a bit as well, which is odd. There we go. Then it loops. It's a very simple game, but the original was too. Actually, you keep your power up, don't you? Yeah. Can't remember when you lose it. But I think this first round is the hardest of the rounds. Yeah, if you continue, you lose your power up. That's it, which is really harsh because you only get the power up when you defeat the Mega Phoenix, which is once per loop. And the power-ups do stack, but you have to complete each loop without dying to get the maximum power up. And that's a lot of loops. The attract mode also shows the full power-up state, so kind of takes away from the excitement of finding out what the maximum power is yourself, but you'd have to play a fair number of loops to get there anyway. The palettes are a bit different on this loop, to keep it interesting. But the game structure's the same, the enemies are the same patterns. Maybe slightly more aggressive, I can't tell. Oh, hi there to Brazil. Hi there to how's Brazil this time? What time is it in Brazil? It's coming up to well, it's just after 7 o'clock here now, and so I was going to stream until just before 8, I think. So one thing I'm trying to work out is when it's best to do these streams, when the audience are most likely to be around. I got a good reception on the last one, which was just out of the blue. But obviously there's a lot of other people streaming, especially at weekends. So I need to work out when I missed the power. When works for everybody. Of course, you know, you can watch it on catch up. I'm sure there are going to be more people watching this on catch up when it appears than watching it live, which is fine. You know, you get to see the same games, things you might not have seen. But it's always nice to have a few people to chat to. Anyway, I'm probably going to quit this one after this death. Yeah. Right, that was Mega Phoenix from Dynamic. I have a little list this time of things to look at. I'm going to go with... Let's go with a Taito G-Net game. Taito. This is Otenki Kororin. I wouldn't really recommend the MAME for the C64. It's quite a slow driver, so you need high specs, and I think the dedicated emulators will do a better job for the C64. A fair number of peripherals are emulated, but if you just want to play games, I don't know what the top one is at the moment, but yeah, I don't think it's the best option. Now, I decided to play this one because when the Unico game Gori Gori was emulated earlier last year, I thought it was going to play a lot like this because it's got the same marbles and scrolling thing to it, but this game actually plays well, whereas the Unico game doesn't. The Unico game, you don't seem to be able to move the bar up and down, you can only scroll in one direction, so you move the balls up and down instead. And I just can't find a strategy that works with the Unico one, whereas this one, well, despite it all being in Japanese, you can usually play quite well and get quite far. Hey, Pedro Red Runadum. How are you all doing? Yeah, so this it runs on Taito GNet, which is PlayStation-based hardware. And the PlayStation could do some good 2D content. And again, it's match 4 in a row, or for any pattern really. But you can slide them all along, so it just provides a different control method. And because they're balls, they roll, and the whole look of it works. I don't think there was an English release of this game. Just have the English subtitle Where the Tales. It's one I wanted to play the other stream, but I couldn't remember the title because the main title is in Japanese. Otenki, Kororin. I think of the GNet games, this is one of the ones that does get overlooked. People tend to think of I think the Darius game, G-Darius. Is it G-Darius? One of the... I can't remember actually. But it's one of the ones with the Zoom sound system, and there's Super Puzzle Bobble on the platform too. So this one, I think a lot of people don't really like the graphical style, but it's that sort of clay look. 227 should read the CHDs if they're in the right place. Nothing's really changed. Just check the right files in the right folders, and that the ROM path is set to where they are. Obviously the CHDs usually go in a subfolder with the ROM name. You don't need to zip them up or anything. There's no specific reason it shouldn't work. I did adjust the sound balance in this one a little bit before recording it, so it's quite quiet, but before that the SPU sounds were maybe a bit overpowering of the rest of it, and it didn't seem quite right to me. And it's the weekend, so yeah, I think some water can be turned into wine and you can all go and celebrate. I mean, apparently it's a day of rest, isn't it? Sunday, so I think resting and a bit of wine. Yeah. You just got plenty of water, or the snow outside at the moment. Some of that could be turned into wine after melting it. Yeah, if there's might help. Might be nice cold wine. What was the mechanic on Tetris Attack? Because to me, that what defines all the puzzle games is the unique elements, gameplay elements each one implements. And Tetris Attack's not coming to mind right now. It's the SNES one, isn't it? Yeah, I really like the clay graphics. It's obviously, if you say clay graphics, most people think of Clay Fighter or something like that. But this is an arcade game with clay graphics, and the color depth is all right. It's not too grainy or anything like that, and it's quite a relaxed puzzle game. I'm sure it gets more hectic in a bit, like all of them do, but yeah, it's well themed. And if I had to choose one of the more recent puzzle games to play, this would be up there on that list. So it's just a shame the Unico one, Gori Gori, wasn't more like this. But I mean, it's possible that Gori Gori didn't even get very wide distribution. It's a rare board compared to even a lot of the Unico ones, which for Korean games aren't the most common. I mean, you've got the 0 Point, which is really common, the Point Blank rip-off, and the Silk Road games seem quite common, but then you've got things like Magic Purple that only turned up recently, Masters Fury, where we're very lucky to have a complete dump from 2 different sources, both of them incomplete, but got a complete dump out of it in the end. This is where I'm failing, isn't it? But yeah, Fancy World's another Unico one. I mean, the quality, Unico can be good, can be bad. Burglar X is known for being quite crude but enjoyable. I don't know, if we're talking Korean companies, I usually prefer Semicon, so I'm not really surprised that Gori Gori didn't turn out quite as well as this one, because this instead is a proper game from Japanese developer. I think it was it Takumi? Yeah, Takumi. Anyway, I failed. Yeah, I see the Tetris tech comparison then. Yeah, I've got a lot of the games in mind. I've not played Tetris Tag recently. I mean, there's a lot of the Nintendo stuff I've not actually seen that much of. I only saw Wario Woods recently, and I really like the look of that one. I need to go and sit down and play that. There's so many puzzle games to try, and even if you think you've seen them all, you haven't always. I'm still in a puzzle game mood actually, so I'm going to switch to another puzzle game. This one, Mausuke Ojama the World, a Data East puzzle game running on Sega's STV, Saturn-based hardware. So we've gone from a PlayStation-based platform to a Saturn-based platform. And this one I think also gets overlooked. The graphics on this one aren't nearly as good. They're fairly ugly, in fact. But the actual gameplay here is why I like this one. The example here will show, but you have to line things up in diagonals to make the bigger chains. If you put 4 together, they'll vanish, but if you arrange them in diagonals, then they won't vanish until there's 4 that aren't diagonally linked together. Anyway, we'll skip that. But like I said, what I look for with all these puzzle games is what the unique gameplay hook mechanic is and how it works. And that is definitely what you get with this one. So, let's see the... require a fair bit of concentration though. So if I go quiet, that is why. This one, it looks like this one was planned to be released as Kiss Off, because if you do hack the ROM data, you can get a Kiss Off title screen, but the rest of the content isn't localized, so I think the plans to actually release it under that title must have been cancelled, or there is a different ROM out there that's not done, that has the content complete. But there's ended up being an arcade exclusive game, and there's nothing to really suggest that title was ever used. It's just a leftover in the ROM. I don't know if the cutting room floor has that up actually. I might have to check. I know they do have a lot of little secrets like that listed. Oh, and the big blocks, you clear them by getting rid of the matching colours, which is important. Otherwise, they pile up and you lose. This is ugly, but at the same time, it is quite cute in the visuals. It's just, I think, better hand-drawn graphics would have worked. Baku Baku. Yeah, Baku Baku is another one on STV, Saturn hardware, and also the Game Gear, I want to say. I know Sega ported it to, I think the Game Gear, not the Master System, wasn't it? Although I think maybe there was a Master System cartridge in Brazil with the Game Gear version, or was it the other way around? I mean, it doesn't play much like Baku Baku. Baku Baku's linking the animals and the different foods, isn't it? And then when they're next to the right food, they'll eat all the foods. If you like puzzle games, this is one I would recommend playing. Again, this is quite a late data release one. I think they were maybe struggling at this point, which might be why we've not seen an English version of it. They probably just wanted to get it to market before they ran out of money. That was close. It's getting quite fast now though. This is one that you don't see many people playing, even if you watch people who stream puzzle games. I think you do have to play it a bit more quickly than I've been playing it to stand much of a chance. Just about straight through there. I'll play this round and probably lose and then move on to another game. So, I mean, it's definitely better than some of Data East's other pre-rendered 3D. I was looking at Skullfang earlier, and I mean, I think there's a good game hidden there somewhere with Skullfang. But the pre-rendered visuals they've gone for on that are really grainy and just look such poor models in the first place. And the game is really overly complex. I mean, if you want to shoot a game with fighting game moves to rotate your plane, then Skullfang maybe, but I think it's Cave more that nailed down the shooting game for me than Data East. Although we did look at Boogie Wings last time and that was really good. But in general, the Data East shooting games are not their strongest. Oh, hey, hello to Argentina again. Hope everything is good there. This game was Mausuke Ojama the World, Data East game on Sega's STV hardware. And I'm going to be moving on now to a different game. Now, the one I'm going to play now is marked as not working in MAME, and it might crash on us. And the two-player mode does not work. The split screen effect is broken. But this is Donggul Haerong, a Korean game on Crystal hardware. I don't think CDI is actively being worked on at the moment, although I think there were some changes a couple of months ago, underlying ones to maybe prepare for emulating the MCUs at CPU level, which might help, but I don't think there's been any noticeable improvements yet. It's one of those things that will get done eventually, but for now, for now there's not been much progress. Again, it's a case of the right people finding the time to look at it. It's a complex system, and then there's the whole aspect of needing to emulate the digital video card at some point. Right, and this one I'm sure most people will recognise what it's been influenced by. I mean, CDI is one I would like to see progress on myself, but the architecture, it would take a long time to sit down and study it. And I don't know if I'd actually fully understand it. Hey Arimas, how are things? Or Arimas, or I don't know how you want it to be pronounced. Now, sometimes the game will hang here. Oh, it didn't hang here. But yeah, this is obviously a Korean take on Adventure Island, Wonder Boy. The emulation Okay, you can't stop it on the scooter, I forgot that. The emulation does seem a bit more stable than it was some years ago, but it is still prone to actually crashing at points, which is why this one is marked as not working in MAME. The crashes have always been weird though, it's just been random corruption that starts to build up, or an outright hang. It's weird, it feels like there's just some stack corruption going on, or an opcode not saving state properly, but checked all that and it seems fine, and the protection seems to be all handled, so I'm not really sure why sometimes it hangs. Probably one of those that if we ever figure out what the issue was, it'd be oh, that was easy. Yeah, I mean a lot of these old games were very tricky. How they made their money. No. No. And just like that, you can lose so many lives. And let's pretend that didn't happen. But, I mean, a lot of the things that are marked as not working in MAME really will just black screen you. So sometimes looking at the ones that are almost there can be quite interesting. But it's, I mean, the standards we set ourselves, I mean, we're not going to mark it as working if we know it has crashing issues that should have been fixed. Well, in general, there were maybe one or two that should probably have been knocked down a bit, but we'll see. There we go, let's get this back. Oh. There was the Adventure Island clone on the GameMate that was emulated a few years ago too. It was a nice little find because the GameMate games are very rare these days. But you see, this is where this game gets hard. Or maybe just have to take it more slowly. Maybe I'm rushing. But there's always the... feels like you're under a time constraint. Oh dear. I think I'm going to play this credit on this one and then probably move on because I think this is where the game beats me. I'm sure I played through it further before, but I think all the Adventure Island games are pretty good. I mean, it's a solid game design idea. And they're done by good studios. I mean, the arcade Wonder Boy 3 is also a decent game. Oh, I actually got to the first checkpoint. That is a miracle. Not one of my GCC miracles. It's a gaming miracle. Okay. I will show you the other reason this one doesn't work then. And that is if you start a two-player game, if it lets me. Two-player game. Is it going to do it? Two-player game is meant to be split screen, but the scrolling does not work. It only scrolls the bottom screen correctly at the moment. It's an unusual way to do two-player games. It seems to be it enables an interlaced video mode, and I thought there'd be a raster split for the middle of the screen to fix the scrolling, but not being able to find a raster interrupts. Oh, okay, see you, Christian. Take care. So yeah, the two-player mode is also something that needs fixing before this one gets promoted to working, because it's a big part of the game that doesn't work. And you can't say it's a working game when it's like that. Okay, what should we move on to now? Let's go for Mirax. Here we go, 1985 Current Technologies, who I've never heard of. Don't know anything about them. Don't think many people will know much about them. But in 1985 they produced this game, Mirax. Looks fairly ordinary, but it's a vertical game. Nice big bold graphics. Current Technologies, like I said. I'm not aware of any other games they did, if they did any other games, but what you have is a nice into the screen shooter. And yeah, this came out in 85, the same year as Space Harrier, but obviously Space Harriers are far better known into the screen shooter. I'm assuming Space Harrier came first, but who actually knows? It's not obviously not as fancy as Space Harrier, although I think when there was some footage recently turned up of a Space Harrier prototype, which instead of the player being the human sprite you know, the sprite was actually a Harrier jet, and the game was vertical like this. So it makes me think, did the people who made this game play that vertical Space Harrier prototype and decide to make a game that was a bit of a knockoff of it, or is this just a completely original game that happened to be developed at the same time? Or did they just play straight Space Harrier and think, oh, we'll make a version of that that's kind of vertical? I'm not very good at it, like most games. You can see why I ended up spending more time doing development than actually playing the games. This one is a pretty good game if you like this type of shooter with the fast-scrolling, colour-cycling surface. It's obviously not as fancy as something like Tube Panic with the rotating tunnel. I mean, that's a very impressive game, which I might put on in a bit. I can't remember if I've streamed it before. You see, I mean, the whole dragon type thing was is very Space Harrier too. It just feels like they must have played it. True. I mean, yeah, maybe they'd only played Buck Rogers. Buck Rogers always felt a lot rough around the edges due to the analog scroll, the scaling hardware. But it's not one I played as much, so yeah. I think the colour scheme as well, the Buck Rogers was very blue, wasn't it? Am I thinking of the wrong game? I don't know, Buck Rogers isn't one I played that much. Although, yeah, Sega were doing impressive things back then. Turbo with the analog scaling. Looks strange with everything scaling in quite an uneven way, but it's also very impressive. I just like this one because it's from a completely unknown developer, and music's not too original. I think it's Flight of the Bumblebee type music. But, I'd love to see that Space Harrier prototype dumped one day, but since the only footage is just some old test location footage from back in the day, I'm not sure it even exists anymore. I doubt Sega even have it in any archives because it's not been in any collections, and you would have thought if they had it, they would be showing it off and going, hey, look, this is what Space Harrier once was. I mean, I wasn't really in the arcades when Turbo was released. I was rather young, but I can imagine when it came out. Yeah, I remember seeing things more like Turbo Outrun and being really impressed by that, just because it had all the weather effects. And I know a lot of people don't like Turbo Outrun, but I think because Turbo Outrun was the first one of those I played properly rather than just saw, has fond memories. But Turbo itself, the original Turbo, yeah, it does look good. And you can see it's sort of bridging that gap between the old analog hardware and CPU driven stuff with the scaling, how the scaling works. Sega tended to get it right more often than they got it wrong. I was watching Mensky's One Credit Champ video for Taito's Galactic Storm earlier, which is a good video. I mean, the whole One Credit Champ series is really worth watching if you check his channel. And that was Taito trying to copy Sega's Galaxy Force and just failing because Sega are just so much better at doing that type of thing. But that's not anyway, that was Mirax by Current Technologies. I think I mentioned Tube Panic. I'm going to put Tube Panic on actually. I'm not going to play much of it because it wasn't on my list. But I'll show it. This is 84. And this for 84 is quite impressive. The logo. This is gonna... The stream's gonna hate me, isn't it? What's the bitrate doing? This has got your top and bottom scrolling plane with different brightness. It gets darker towards the middle. You've got your scaling objects. This is Nichibutsu. This really isn't the type of game you'd expect from them. I mean, they, you know, more known for the Mahjong games and Moon Cresta and the like. Now it goes into a full actual tube. I think the gameplay is a little weak on this one. You press up to go faster as well. But visually, this is up there. And you look at some of the other into the screen tunnel games. I think Tunnel Hunt from Atari. This is far more impressive. Is it Atari? Is it Exidy? I don't remember. I mean, Taito had some early racing games too, Change Lanes, although I'm not overly familiar with it. But I think that looked quite impressive. I might have to play that one a bit more and see if it's worth streaming. But there we go. Oh, I missed the mothership. And I've got different patterns, different texture on the tunnel now. I've got an Xbox One controller plugged in. It's not the best for everything. I'm currently using the analog stick rather than the D-pad because I was having a few issues. I think there's maybe a bug in the current MAME GitHub code because it was just dropping some of my inputs even if I hadn't removed the pad. That needs to be investigated, I think. But yeah, I mean, as I'm mostly developer, I don't have dedicated arcade sticks or anything else, so that some people would prefer and probably give for a better experience. So yeah, just a plain old Xbox One pad with a nice blue cable. The blue cable was actually for the PlayStation, but I bought a blue one and a red one, and a blue pad and a red pad for player 1 and player 2 because I think you can give me any arcade joystick and I still wouldn't be any better at the games with them. In fact, I might find it more tricky. You know, when I do play on the arcades, I find it just the coordination seems even worse for me. I don't know why. Just my hands, I think. But anyway, this Tube Panic. So it wasn't on my list of things to show, but it's a technically impressive scaling game that maybe not many people know about. Yeah, this is up there. I mean, I got that terrible plug and play MSI Street Fighter 2 one, and tried playing the actual game on that, and people said the stick's quite good. It was I think it was fully micro switched, but well, it was clicky at least, and seemed to have switches. So, but I found it even more difficult to play than on a pad. And people are going, "Oh, that's the only good thing about that." I mean, it probably is the only good thing about that, because the whole unit's a single player hacked up version of Street Fighter 2 with half the content missing, and it's the Mega Drive version at that. But I was even worse at playing it. Shall we stick with a theme here, into the screen shooters? Most people know this one from the NES, Sky Destroyer from Taito. What year was it? 85. So this one looks a little more dated to the other one, although it has a really nice horizon effect. You see the horizon rotate. But yeah, this one is on a lot of the those NES multi-games, the NES version. The arcade version is a lot less common. It's also really tricky, I find. But there you go, again, we've talked about this. But the rotation effect only rotates very slightly. Tilts more than rotates, I'd say. I think it's a column scroll effect. But it works, and again, this predates things like Galaxy Force, where you'd really see a background that tilted a lot. We never managed to bomb the boats. I don't know how you aim those. Can't shoot them, can you? No. See, the torpedo does go off, but it goes in a straight line, and the boats always move out of the way. I think when I was practicing this the other day, yes, I do practice some of these, you can't tell, but I just checked this. They work reasonably well in the current versions, and there's nothing broken in the emulation that is going to cause issues. There usually isn't, but I just want to make sure. And also be somewhat familiar with the games I'm going to play. I do like playing Guwange. I mean, I almost put it on my list. I was going to play the Special Blue version. Just doing this. I can put that on next, maybe. I mean, wasn't the cave shooter I was going to pick. What time are we on? Yeah, there's still plenty of time. It's at an hour of games. Up and down are inverted on the select screen. That is really weird. Maybe they're not meant to be inverted in game. I don't know. Shall we put that on then? Here we go. Guwange special version. Okay, this is that zoom effect with the pixels instead of the actual characters enlarging. Which looks really odd. Well, not odd. Well, really good. Really not odd. It looks good. It has to say distinctive. You can tell this hardware is being used, because it's the only hardware that does that kind of scaling effect. Now, I'm not good at this game. But it's a very, very stylish game. You can't deny that. I think this is one of the cave games quite a lot of people are familiar with because it was emulated with the first batch of them back in the day, and a lot of people were very excited when they saw it because it just seemed so different to most other shooters. And it's not Cave's usual style at all. I kind of wish they'd done a proper sequel to it. Yeah, you can mark the bullets and things like that. I'm not the best player of this. I think a follow-up on the SH3 based platform would have been very impressive, but the market wasn't really there for it by that time. People just wanted Dodonpachi sequels, really, I think. Maybe more traditional games. I mean, FIFA SRS, Dangun FIFA 1, is also impressive because it's different. It plays differently to the other games, and therefore to me is a more interesting play. And as good as things like Dodonpachi are, they're more traditional. There's been no specific progress on Subuku Soccer recently. The last lot of progress on the protection chips did get Legionnaire and things like that running much better. I think that one I promoted is working. But Cup Soccer seems to be the one that makes the most extensive use of the protection. It's odd because I would have thought that one would have been easier to crack because it does have a debug mode with loads of things in, but they just went so overboard with the protection, and the Goal 92 bootleg is so bad it's not really a useful comparison, that it's just a tricky one to emulate. It seems to call protection commands with invalid parameters as well, and you kind of just don't know what the expected behaviour is. Oh dear. I do keep meaning to go back and look at that and see if I can figure anything out with it, but there's been plenty of good developers, Kale and Olivia, who have looked at those Cebu protections as well. Not quite managed to crack that one yet. At least want to get the spiky boss thing. And obviously the whole insect theme here is similar to some of the later cave games. Oh well. Against my general way of playing, I will continue once on a shooter. I try to play shooters without continuing because I think it's the best way to play them. Unless I just want to see all the content. Although even then, with a lot of these cave ones, you can't see all the content by continuing because a lot of it is conditional. There we go, the spidery caterpillar blossom. Yeah, this is one of those where everything just moves so well, it's all organic and just so well animated, beyond the actual patterns. You have Bonnet. Steep slope sliders. Yeah, they've got an arcade release as well. It looks very rough these days, but I guess at the time it probably looked okay. I never really got into it. They did some driving games on the PlayStation as well, didn't they? And of course, the puzzle games are good. The Yuboko and the Mushitama thing, which was basically a sequel. But think we've still got to hook up the touchscreen on the Mahjong game we did as well, although I don't think too many people are going to be that interested in that. It looks like a very average game even for a Mahjong game. Yeah, you've got to make your money. I mean, as good as they could make a shooter, the genre isn't profitable. That's the real problem with it. You get people paying a lot of money for individual boards, but overall you can make far more money just by making some mobile dating simulator or something like that. And that's the harsh reality of the industry sometimes. You can only do so many projects that don't make a huge amount of money. And so with arcade games, you've got it a lot with studios making gambling games, mahjong games, and that's where they made their money for the casinos. And with the arcade games, quite a few of them were sold at a loss. Big names everybody remembers, but not always profitable. But that was Guwange, the blue version, the special version. Where we go? Actually, shall we go? Let's go with something much older now. Itazura Tenshi. Oh no, Itazura. I'm not very good with the Japanese. Itazura Tenshi. That's the one. This is also. Is this also Nichibutsu? Yeah, I think Nichibutsu. Yeah, Nichibutsu and Alice. I think was Alice on the Tube Panic as well? I can't remember. But here we go. Much older one. Well, not much older. Older than Guwange. But a little Cupid thing. Making well, star signs. This is another one that nobody really seems to play. It's sort of a shooter, but you've got to draw. You can't shoot everything. But you get the bow and arrow because you're this little Cupid, and once you've got that, you can't actually shoot things, which is handy because some of them are quite dangerous. Yeah, there's that Denshi to Go plug and play as well. That's on the similar hardware to the NES Mini. It's quite an expensive one for plug and play. I know Claw Grip's got one, but we're not going to be emulating things that recent. Well, not as I say recent, that type of tech more so than recent. There are some more recent plug and plays. I need a bow. There are some more plug and plays recent emulated, but they're mostly NES-based ones that have just been released more recently. And there'll probably be people releasing NES ones forever. You're very slow at times in this. You get there is a way to boost. But and there's I mean, train simulators are quite popular in Japan, I guess. Still, there was that play rail one on the Zavix plug and play as well that I need to emulate. Well, you know, it runs, but there are no controls at the moment. Because again, like a lot of the Japanese plug and plays, it's custom analog controls for the levers and everything else, and just getting it working is not easy. And a lot of it's more a case of just finding the time to study the code and working out where all the inputs hook up and testing them. But anything that is a custom control scheme like that is always going to take longer, and I've mostly concentrated on trying to actually get the base system up and running and hoping others step in and start to look at the input hookups, because there are a lot of good games. I mean, the whole Excite Sports series looks really good. Not the Chinese one, but the Epoch one. And Epoch they're an important developer. It's been said that Epoch were considered Nintendo's main competition not Sega in Japan, and then obviously it became Sega versus Nintendo, and Epoch, after things like the Super Cassette Vision, didn't do that much in terms of mainstream gaming. But they did do those plug-and-play devices. And they're well-developed games, they're well-developed sports titles. You know, I had the UK version of the one Radica released as football here, Play TV Soccer, Excite Striker, and that was actually really good. Look at the stars there. Yeah, there's the car game, the driving simulator as well. I think Japan just likes their little simulator games like that. But Sega had that Naomi dog walking simulator arcade, didn't they? Obviously that's not really playable at any speed in MAME, but I think the Dreamcast emulators run it. The idea got stuck on the rocks. This is a nice little game. It's not perfectly designed, but again, I don't think anybody plays it. You see Nichibutsu and you see a Japanese title, and people just go, "Oh, it's going to be a Mahjong game," and they don't play it. But this is not a Mahjong game. What's the green one do? Oh, well, that's better. There we go, you see. Oh, it's an old game. You get no continues. I don't know what happens when you clear all the levels, all the screens. But yeah, the whole area with to show what needs to clear reminds me of things like Bosconian. Why don't put DJ on? DJ Jungle. I'm thinking of streaming DJ Jungle things, and I end up typing DJ into the initials. But I think I'll skip the NES-based DJ Jungle stuff for today. Stick with arcades. We've probably been streaming. We've been streaming an hour now. What next? Okay. Let's go with Gekisou. This one. Another one where I think there might be an English version of this called Violent Run, which because it was reviewed in magazines under that name, but there is no dump of the English version. It's on Alpha Denshi type hardware and credited to Eastern Corp. I don't know if they were the developer or if it's just somebody who sold it for Alpha. But it is basically bump and jump burning rubber, but souped up a bit, but not souped up to the sort of LED Storm level. Yeah, so there's occasional glitches, but I don't really have a good strategy for this game, I'll say that much, but I've only played it briefly, but I liked it the times I played it, so I decided to put it on the list to have a little play on stream. It's one of those where I think the MCU was recently hooked up, or that was simulated before. Nobody's said it's made any difference to the emulation, but it could have changed things. Can you drop something? I mean, I did grow up playing lots of sim games. I think Gunship 2000, Microprose, one on the Amiga, is one I played a lot of, and that's, say, it's not that exciting on the surface, but it just felt like a very satisfying game to play. What's the submarine one? Silent Service, I think that one also. Played that somewhere. I didn't own that one, I played that at somebody else's house. And that seems like a strange game to be playing with somebody else around, but enjoyed it. I'm crashing things. My Proposer's arcade games really didn't work well though. I'm not going to play them because the sound emulation's been broken in MAME for probably about 10 years now. Maybe I don't know. I think it might have been 10 years at this point. But they tried to make sim games into arcade games and they just became terrible coin munchers. I didn't do very well with this. I guess they're quite impressive. But do you really want to play Battle of the Solar System arcade? Big mechs fighting, but still feels like a sim? Oh dear. To me, that type of game doesn't work or translate well into an arcade. And it's probably why they didn't do too well. Although, I think the Desert Tank... Is it Desert Tank? Not Desert Tank. The Tank one. Which I believe Phil even found a newer version of on the board, which I don't think he's added to MAME yet. That one, if you look at the debug strings in the game, it looks like they didn't think much of it when they're developing it. It's full of ha-ha sucker, insert another coin type of comments, which you don't see in the game, but I think might get output to one of the debug ports. It's like they knew they were just making an awful coin muncher. Yeah. And I don't really like that model of gaming. It has put me off a lot of games where I've looked at it and gone, I like the complete package being properly balanced, not buy this, buy that, add everything else on. It's the same with puzzle games these days. So many of the mobile ones are just so obviously rigged to make you want to pay more money that the actual game design seems to have gone out the window. I'm terrible at this game. This is Gekisou, which again, I think because it's got a Japanese title and is from an unknown developer, doesn't get played. Although I've not even managed to get on the high score table. Let's time to go. I'm probably missing something in the gameplay. You've got your different power-ups, but they're limited. You can only use 3 of them. And it automatically cycles between them too, which is a bit odd. I think if you get this at the right point, yeah. See, I think you can bomb that if you get in front of it and use one of the special weapons. I think I've done that before, but now I've not got that special weapon anymore. I've got shields, which I can use. This could have done with an extra button to cycle things yourself. I think that's maybe one of the flaws with this one. At least I think it auto-cycles. I can't get it off the shield now. I don't know. I don't know too much about this game. No, those fire. I don't know how the cycling works. It's confusing me. Because now it's just on that one. Okay, that button's the missile. The missile is separate to the other things. It feels like I'm missing a button in this game, but it does say 3 buttons. Yeah, I don't think visually this is the most impressive game, but I think that there's maybe more to it. I mean, it's if it is developed by Eastern, it's probably their only game of that I'm aware of. Yeah, if I'm still not on high school paper. I think my favourite of these jump around and land on things games is probably the original LED Storm, the 2012 Rally version, before they evolved it into what was better known as Mad Gear. That's another strange one, because we've seen so many boards of that LED Storm Valley 2012. Is it 2012? 2011. That it seems like it was a released game, but other sources say it was only a prototype. Then we do have a prototype of it where you can fire weapons, which was taken out of the final game. And then you've got the whole way it evolved into Mad Gear, which is a very different playing game completely, and just doesn't feel as interesting. But yeah, the bump and jump type games, I do enjoy that one. I probably need to spend more time with it offline to work out what I'm doing. I'm just randomly pressing buttons and jumping on things then, and I think the different things would have different meanings. Shall we finish with one more game? I don't know. Another cave shooter then. The PGM2 version of Dodonpachi Dai-Ou-Jou on PGM IGS's hardware for China. An unusual release, this, because the whole game was ported from 68K hardware to the ARM-based PGM2. Yeah, maybe it was. I mean, maybe that's why we've not found Violent Run. I know there's a magazine review somewhere from one of the UK magazines that calls it Violent Run. So I'm going to say it was probably released and tested at least under that name. But maybe it didn't really do that well anywhere. It's not a game I see much about. I think the Violent Run graphics are still in the ROM, but it doesn't seem like it's just a region switch anywhere. But anyway, yes, let's play this one, which I will die on. Select easy mode. Easy mode sounds like a good idea. No, easy mode. That's the thing, you don't always know if a game was released or not. Oh, sorry, you're talking about... Yeah, you're talking about LED Storm. I'm still talking about the previous game. LED Storm is a weird one, because it must have been... it must have been at least region tested in a lot of places with the older version. And the home ports of LED Storm were based on the Valley version of Spectrum, but the one we all grew up with here, thinking this is LED Storm, was based on the that version, which is why when I first played LED Storm in MAME, I'm like, this is the wrong game. Well, this isn't LED Storm. And then many years later, the various various Valley versions were dumped, and it's oh, this is the proper version. And with all the content, with its different graphical style. And yes, I did reset them because I'm not accepting a death that early on. I know I'm out of practice, but that's the thing with shooters. The reset key is your friend. It also gets overused. Think of all the Dodonpachi games, this one, well, the original version of this one is my favourite. I'm just playing the PGM2 version because why not? It's nice to see the actual version of Dodonpachi 3 with the Dodonpachi 3 title and some English translation turned up a few years ago too, because I think that must be one of the rarest cave boards. Even in the lists of rare cave boards, that English version seems to get missed. But it is playable in MAME. So, yeah. I think it's even the parent set, which some people disagree with. But it just looked like it was released, and policy is, English version has priority. And it's not quite based on the Black Label, it may be somewhere in between. At least in terms of release date. Oh well, I can usually complete the first stage without dying, but not today. Probably because I'm on pad actually. I'm used to playing on keyboard, not this not ideal analog stick. Yeah, I don't know why they decided to port this to PGM2 really, because it's not enhanced in any meaningful way. It's just got the extra easy difficulty mode that doesn't really seem much easier to me. It would be nice to see some enhancements to it because the PGM2 hardware could have done a bit more. Yeah, they do get overwhelming, but that is the point of them, I guess. I don't think the final one that's not emulated yet looks that impressive. Apparently it's got quite a lot of lag from the original game, and the ports are even worse. And it's simplified. I think you've always got maximum power, or one power gives you maximum power, something like that. And things like that, and it just feels... It seems like... I can't put words to it. It just feels like it's an odd one out. In that sense. Maybe just too much going on all the time. Maximum power all the time. I didn't like the look of it. I've not played it. Maybe it plays really well, but I just didn't like any of the footage I saw of it. Alright, I'm not feeling that one right now. We'll see when that one gets the final one gets emulated, if it ever gets emulated. Some of the black label version of the fourth game I quite enjoyed, but again, it didn't feel quite as good as the older ones. I do like the Donpachi and Donpachi. I even like the PGM B-Storm one, even if there wasn't that much original content. It played okay. Let's just finish on a non-arcade game. It's arcade-ish. Often overlooked port. And it is. Well, it's SNK. And Namco. And it is Pac-Man. NeoGeo Pocket Color got a port of Pac-Man. You get to scroll, you get full screen. Full screen. I like the look of this full screen. It's tiny little graphics fitting onto the NeoGeo Pocket Color screen, and I think you'd find a lack of content in this a bit annoying if you bought it back in the day, because you'd be paying full price for a cartridge, and you'd really just be getting Pac-Man. But as ports go, this is a nicer port than a lot of those newer mini arcade ones that run the game really badly at low frame rate. It seems like care and attention was put into producing a good Pac-Man port, but it really is just only Pac-Man. And again, analog stick is not helping me here. I keep going in the wrong direction. Yeah. Don't realise just how bad analog sticks are until you try and play something like this, a 4-way game with them. Yeah, if you put the full screen, if you turn the full screen mode off, it's a scrolly Pac-Man, but I think being able to see where everything else is better than having a scrolly Pac-Man. But again, it's a well done scrolly Pac-Man. If I die, I might put the scrolly version on in a bit. I wasn't trying to die. Again. Analog stick. In fact, I can just play this on keyboard, can't I? I try not to use the keyboard because the keys are quite noisy, and the pad's a bit quieter. Anyway, I have failed to complete the first level, or the second level in Pac-Man. I guess the Pocket was still at that point where little handheld screens weren't that good. They're not like today's mobiles where, you know, hold them at any angle, no blur, absolutely perfect looking displays. I think it's a good port. I'm going to just kill myself for now. I wanted to get the cutscene. But yeah, I'll put scrolling mode on so that anybody watching who's not seen scrolling mode can see scrolling mode. Scroll. There you go. It doesn't scroll too much. I guess you can see enough around you. Like I say, at this point I can only see one and a bit ghost. Yeah, I mean, the Pocket had a lot of good games, but it didn't have enough games, and I don't think it had quite the wide enough appeal. The library is maybe missing some important titles that would have made it a killer system. But it's got some good games, for sure. And obviously, you got your Puzzle Bobble on there, Magical Drop on there. So it's definitely better than those recent mini arcade ones. Unfortunately, we did dump. Well, we didn't, but somebody did dump those. There are dumps of them, and I was looking at them, and they seem to have some sort of internal RAM. So they're Sun Plus based, but there are jumps to an area that must be internal, at least for the... I can't remember the manufacturer. For one type. Then there's another type. There's the basic fun ones, which are different, and if they're the same hardware as the Wreck-It Ralph, they might not have an internal area. I don't know. That was a weird SPI ROM setup where it looks like it's executing the code directly, but I don't know if it is. Because usually with SPI ROMs you have to copy the code to RAM, but for some of the NES based ones they can run it directly, but that's not NES based, so I don't know. I didn't get very far with the emulation of that one, but being as they're quite recent devices, I kind of left it low priority. I'd rather, you know, try and cover the older stuff first. So I don't like to take credit for things and say we did this, we did that. Sometimes I do that when I mean the scene as a whole. It's a bad habit. Oh dear, that was terrible. There are some good non-mobile Pac-Man ports. For emulating the Jack-specific one, that's it's not arcade perfect, but that one, the later one, the Sun Plus one, is a good port of the game. The earlier port that's unemulated, which looks really tricky to emulate. I've got that unit behind me, because I opened it to study it. That one, not such a good port, but still playable. Just sounds really rough. I think I'm doing. The Lynx is an underrated system too. I think the size of it, the battery life, the original screen meant it wasn't that popular. But if you look at some of the ports that are on it, it is impressive. I mean, it's got race driving on there, and for a mobile, well, not mobile, handheld port of race driving, that turned out really well. I definitely like what the Lynx was doing. It just, again, I don't think it had the right games, and the hardware wasn't quite right. A bit like the Game Gear, perfectly good platform with some really good games on. But yeah, I get within Atari. I guess they're going to have the Atari ports on, but maybe that didn't help it over here that much because Atari wasn't that big over here compared to a lot of other companies. Yeah, getting Stun Runner on a home system is impressive too. If you've seen some of the other ports of that, they are woeful. I think was it the Spectrum one. Less said about those, the better. Shall we just put one final game on? I was going to quit there, but this one. Let's put Ultraman Club on. This one always reminds me more of one of the Korean games than a Japanese arcade game. It kind of, if you played New Hyperman from Semicom, that's the general feel I get from this Ultraman game. I think like most Ultraman games, it's not the best. But for some reason I still kind of like it, but I'm terrible at it. Was it Ultraman that did had the link up puzzle game on, not link up, link block puzzle game? I can't remember what it's called, on the Saturn, as well as the cartridge based game. Or is that a different IP? My main issue with this is everything takes too many shots. Well, not everything, but a lot of them do. Okay, keyboard time. See, those take loads of shots. You do have this attack, which is handy. It uses a power up. And you replenish your power. I don't know. I mean, I played worse games than this, but I played better games. But there's something that makes me just come back and play it every now and again. It's probably been about a year at this point, but I think it's got that simplicity you need. But the things to the power drops just end up in places you can't pick them up. See, that's not good design. I'm sure you just meant to use that attack to clear multiple enemies instead, but anyway, yeah, I'm going to have to look at some Lynx stuff and see which ones run well in MAME. I think our emulation is actually pretty good on Lynx. I've seen quite a few people recommend it, so I'm going to guess it's going to hold it quite well. Had a Raiden port as well, didn't it? Oh, thank you for following our hats. If you're in the chat, feel free to drop by and say hello, although I will probably be ending after this game because I was streaming for an hour and we are, well, we're an hour and a half, so the title of the stream is Now a Lie. Unless, you know, we're in some weird time warp and time distortion. I don't know. Hopefully not, because that might bring 2020 back. Because I know last time I put the stream title as January the 22nd, 2020. Which is not what we want. Hey Rockman, how you doing? I'm guessing this is the same Rockman I was talking to earlier. So yeah, I know you said you caught the previous. Well, watched the highlights of the previous stream, didn't you, with Boogie Wings? I think you're just catching the end of this one. But, oh dear. I mean, I do have a few more games on the list, but maybe I can continue. Yeah, it does have 2-player support. I think it's one of those. I don't think there's been that much thought put into the overall design, but I might be missing something. I think that's one reason I keep coming back to it. It's like, I'm missing something. Why are there so many items? What are all these items? Is there more to it than just using that attack at the right time to clear off multiple enemies? And maybe there is, maybe there isn't. The range on your attack is annoying too. You can't just hide behind there and shoot things. That's one you can't get because it's in the wrong place. Yeah. Well, thank you for dropping by. Did you check out Roga and things like that at all, or you just look at the videos? That worked. I actually I don't think I had any Ultraman stuff as a child. It's I'm assuming this is only in Japanese. Yeah. Hi, Awesome Panda. How are you doing? Likewise, Rockman, how are you doing? I think I asked earlier on Twitter, but yeah, I hope everything's good. Rockman, by the way, has been helping with picking up a lot of the plug-and-play units and organising the shipping of them and things like that. So, and contributed the Speed Racer one, the Scenario one that was dumped last year, and that was a very, very rare one. So everybody say thank you to Rockman for that, because I don't think we'd have that emulated otherwise, and not seen a single one for sale since, or at any other point. And whenever you donate something like that, it usually has to be sacrificed to dump it, because you're dealing with blobs and globs and things like that, and it's just a messy process of removing everything. You can't usually get that together. So very thankful for that, because some of those do get a bit expensive, especially the ones that don't show very often. Yeah, the roads are covered in snow. I've had a few friends posting earlier that, you know, they've been in little traffic accidents and like nothing too bad, but you know, slow speed ones, because the roads are so icy, they can't stop. The cars are sliding across the road, not stopping. You know, at this point everybody's phoning up on late shift saying, have we got to come in because we can't get it coming, it's not safe, the buses are cancelled. So yeah, it's the snow is definitely here. Okay, I will look forward to it. If yeah, crossing my fingers. I'll have to get back to you for some plug and plays, although so I'm on a bit of a tight budget at the moment. Not really got much coming in. So while I'd like to pick up maybe those basic fun ones and send those to Sean, the Pac-Man ones, the Miss Pac-Man ones, I don't know. They're not so sure how easy they're going to be to emulate. I'm not sure there's an internal ROM, if you caught me saying that earlier, because I was looking at the Fix It Feeling ones, but I can't work out what's missing. It's odd. There's an incomplete section of code, but it's obviously intentionally incomplete. But maybe it's meant to be copied to RAM and have bits attached to the end of it. It needs some more studying, and I've been trying to take a little bit of a break from studying too much at the moment, but keep getting dragged back into things. It's one of the reasons why I want to start doing these streams, is because it's a bit of a break from the actual development, and I think I need a bit of a break. And even the last week or so I've ended up doing Fruit Machine stuff, because I want to try and leave those in a better position for if somebody else wants to look at them, and there seems to be a bit of interest at the moment. That's the thing with emulation, it becomes a bit of a responsibility at times. A one-up in an arcade game? That is rare. But yeah, I mean, I got up pretty late today and didn't even open the curtains till late, and I think at about 4 or 5 o'clock I eventually decided I'm going to look outside, and oh, it's been snowing, and it was like halfway up my window. So I've been told we're not allowed to even look outside now with the lockdown restrictions. But where's the weak point? There is no weak point, is there, until it's back together? Yeah. How many? Are you including the Japanese ones? Because there's probably at least 50 more Zavix ones we haven't got dumped, and plenty on hardware we don't even know about. There's Konami ones I want to pick up, because in Japan it was a really serious business, and they put a lot of effort into them. Here we've got a lot of the Jax ones. There's so many of those still undumped. But actually, I think at this point we've sourced most of the known ones. You know, somebody associated with MAME, Sean or whatever, has at least one of them, but a lot of them, there's no known way to dump at the moment, or they look really, really tricky, so I don't know if they're all going to get processed or not. Because, you know, we can send them all to him and hope for the best. I don't know. It does look a bit watery, doesn't it? It does look swimming pool. I prefer not to question those things in games, but yeah, that's definitely a swimming pool. You see, I'd put the Speed Racer plug and play thing on for Rockman, but it's got a lot of buttons, and I'd have to map all the buttons, and I'm not prepared. So that one's not going to happen today. Plug and play in numbers, though. If you want to include all the NES-based ones that don't have original content, then probably an unlimited number. If you're talking just the original games, you know, an amount that can be managed. Actually, let's put one of them on. Actually, the sound isn't properly emulated on this yet. Is this the one I want? This might be the wrong one. Slap Fight. Slap Fight Tiger. So there is meant to be sound here, but our Zavix sound emulation is missing the envelopes and looping stuff. And this is all the music in this game is done with that. It's a short sample that loops with envelopes, and it doesn't make much sense. But this is hard. But you know, I did die straight away, so I do get the bonus thing from just in Slap Fight, even though I wasn't trying to die, and I just died again because you are so slow. Yeah, this game is hard. If you've ever played Slap Fight is hard. This is Slap Fight with the Tiger Heli sprites, which is why it's called Slap Fight Tiger. There we go, got a bit of speed. If anything, this version of Slap Fight feels even more difficult than the proper Slap Fight. But this is what you got in Japan. I mean, Taito worked with Bandai to actually produce a special version of the game, special version of some of the games just for the plug and play systems, and that's what I mean by they take them more seriously. They want, the Mega Drive version of Slap Fight with the remix mode. Yeah, that's a really good port. From the game. Maybe that's why in the US it was called Alcon instead. Maybe they thought people wouldn't actually get Slap Fight as a name. Okay, yeah, I do want to play another game of that actually. I'm just going to play on keyboard though. Load game. I don't think I loaded the game. No, let's insert some credits. See, it's designed a bit like an arcade. You can insert credits. Though you can still choose the other craft, which is invisible on the select screen like it's a bonus thing. So you can play Slap Fight Tiger with Slap Fight craft if you really want. Yeah. A lot of the home ports of Slap Fight suffered in the same way. How bad am I at this? Even the new CPC version does a bit. I did want to play that at some point in MAME, but it doesn't run properly in our emulation. But if you played it, it's a good port, it's a good port for a CPC. It's not Pinball Dreams level, but it's good. But the frame rate I think is about every 3 frame update, and the bullets still spawns quite close to you and are quite difficult to see. So I think it's always going to be a problem doing this type of game on an 8-bit system, where your frame rate's a problem, your resolution's a problem, your number of colours are limited. Because the whole point of the game is it's got fast bullets that fire from right next to you, and you have to try and dodge them. And if you've lost frames and you can't see them properly, that is always going to be an issue. No. Got the power up and lost it, and then died. But yeah, there are 2 Taito nostalgia units and 2 Namco ones. This is probably the one I like most, even if I'm terrible at the game. I think I can reload this now. Because I just like the way they've remixed these games, and it's a very playable port. I have actually got a lot further than this before, but I've not played it for about a year again. And you do have to remember where things are and what they don't do that. Yeah, it's slap fight with Tiger Heli sprites. Yeah, the Legend of Cage with Ninja Dog. That was on the other one, wasn't it? Not this one. Oh, come on. I'll tell you what, when I die, which will be shortly, I will swap to that one. Although I'm just as bad at Legends of Cage, so or Kage. I don't know how you say it. It was always Legend of Cage growing up, but maybe it's meant to be Kage. Okay, that felt a bit unfair, but yeah, I didn't even make the high score table that time. Let's not continue. Yeah, Kage. Or I'm sure any Japanese viewers will watch a lot of US and UK European streamers butcher so many other game titles that they probably hate it, but yeah, this is the one, isn't it? There we go. Let's have some. Which one's the dog? Is this the dog? Yeah. Kage. There we go. Now I'm a dog that wants to be Sonic. This is always an odd game to play because it's never really clear what you're meant to be doing. You just sort of go around killing everything and enjoy the lightning effects. I had it on the Spectrum, but I remember playing quite a lot of it, but always felt the structure was a bit unusual. Obviously playing as a dog. The other character you can play in this version is a female ninja with bombs, I believe. Yeah. Whenever I play anything, I'm sure there are people watching going, why are you playing that so badly? But yeah, this game was the first of the Zavix games dumped, and is one of the reasons I started looking at emulation of the Zavix platform in the first place. But it, I mean, at first, when it was first dumped, we thought, oh, it's going to be SNES on a chip. But it wasn't. I mean, Zavix is its own thing. It's the same architecture, the same basic family as things like the NES, but it's got loads of enhanced opcodes, faster clock speeds, and very complex video modes actually. It's got sort of compressed tile layouts and all sorts, and the sound system is excellent for a plug and play. So it's just a shame the output resolution is so low. It feels out of place in that sense. The Super Zavix did increase that for bitmap layers and stuff, but not for the base sprites. Oh dear. Dead dog. Yeah, they really did. The music ones too, the pop era ones. I can't even play music game in Terabon, but I just like everything they've done. Konami have got their own music one with a xylophone style keyboard that's not dumped, that we did try to pick up last time, but the seller let us down, and we've not bought anything in Japan since. There's some gun games, although when Sean was trying to dump one of them, it failed. Gun Adventure or Gun Revolution, I can't remember which one. He does have the other one as well, but it's trickier to dump. Because that was meant to be an easier dump, but there's always a risk of failure whenever we're doing anything, because even easy is often soldering direct to pads, and if you use too much heat or anything like that, you can easily kill them. Fortunately, buying stuff from Japan, you're spending a lot on shipping because they're big, heavy items with custom controllers as well. I don't know how we're going to go about getting some of those. Yeah, the system output's 240p, say 256 by 224. But that's a shame. That's the one thing that lets it down, maybe. Yeah. Let's just continue a little bit. I keep forgetting I've got the second attack too. But I put on one of the Namco ones next, actually. It's available in MAME. I mean, you can find the ROM for it. Everything I play is available somewhere. If you want the actual unit, you're probably looking at importing it. Although I will say, buy them direct in Japan. People selling them outside of Japan are charging stupid markup rates. I think you might need an extra power adapter and special power cable or TV cable to use the nostalgia units. They sold it separately for some reason. But yeah, I mean, this is on MAME. I would like to branch out to doing some non-MAME emulation streams at some point, but the whole channel setup and theming right now is MAME, so I'm doing, even if I'm playing non-arcade stuff, I'm doing it in MAME because that seems more fitting for what I do as a developer. But I'd really love to stream some Amiga stuff at some point, but MAME's Amiga emulation is so bad, it's not worth doing in MAME. But yeah, there's been a lot of work on these plug and plays. Yeah, I think there was some US sellers selling it for about $400 when I think we got it in Japan for $5. Oh yeah, I should really try and actually go up the level, shouldn't I? The market was ridiculous. I was lucky enough to actually to pick up some other Zavix plug and play Japanese ones here, which nobody had bid on eBay. Where the seller didn't list them expensive at all. I was expecting to pay maybe 10 times what I paid for them. But sometimes you get lucky. Yeah, they when we were picking these up, all these Japanese plug and plays were really cheap in Japan. I mean, we got hundreds of those Ikara Pop Era cartridges for almost nothing, and yet people want sometimes $60 for a single cartridge outside of Japan. I don't understand why. Prices might have got worse since then. I'm kind of hoping not, because we do have to pick some more up at some point. Yeah, sometimes you just get lucky and you pick things up. speed race. Nobody would expect something like a scenario game to actually be rare. And then it turns out years later, not seen anymore. Maybe they're not rare. Maybe they're just all sitting somewhere. Yeah. Anyway. I'm gonna say enough of that one for now. Anyway. Let's put the Namco one of them. Is it this one? Oh, this is the one with the mapping. Mapping and series. Let's put the mapping game on. This one actually has a high score bug in the game, which was confirmed on the original unit. Sadly, it doesn't quite work. But it's mappy characters in a breakout style game, and you've got the whole. Again, they integrated a mechanic from the original game into the bounce pad here. If you hold the button, you get your higher bounce, but it changes colour. And if it changes to red, it breaks, just like the pads in the original game. I mean, half the hacks of Mappy don't get that right because they changed the palette and it doesn't work. But here, there's that attention to detail. You've got bonus items that flash as well that will give you more points. There you go, there's a chain of items. Obviously got the original little music, which I hope doesn't cause problems because Namco can be a bit you use our music. Maybe the sound emulation is bad enough that it won't get picked up. That is annoying it won't actually the sound emulation, but it's going to need a expert in sound emulation to sort it out. And sound is not my area of expertise. Come on. Oh dear. No. Come on. Yes, hurry up. No, don't do that. There we go. I did it and I died. But it counts. I'm just glad we've been preserving these things because, I mean, some of them say they're becoming quite uncommon. The ones that, a lot of the bad ones are becoming quite uncommon because people are just throwing them out. And I think if we left it any more years, there'd be more of them that would just be lost. I mean, if you look at the Speed Racer thing, it's an inflatable game that probably was given to kids. Probably got destroyed once the actual unit, the inflatable got destroyed. Probably thrown out. They're novelty items, but there are sometimes good, interesting games attached to them. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to find them in places like that, it's a good way. There's nowhere around here selling them. I mean, even the used game shops, no interest in them. So, I guess you just collect the ones you like, really, or you buy them, and if you don't like them, you put them somewhere. And I don't know. If they're cheap enough, they're sometimes worth taking a chance on. I've still got a few here that I've not sent away. I've got the ones behind me. I've got the Capcom one, which the Jax Capcom, which is a decent set of ports. I think I played that on stream before. They're not perfect, but they're playable. Ghosts and Goblins, 1942, and Commando. This, I think, was it the one with the flight one, or the other? There's quite a lot of Star Wars plug and plays. I know there's a Jax flight one on GPO 16250 that's not dumped yet, although doesn't look like the most difficult case according to Sean. Yeah, that one I'd like to see that one dumped because it might tell us more about some of the hardware. But there were a lot. There's several Star Wars gun games. The Hasbro one is dumped and emulated, and there's the Battle Squadron. I think it's Battle Squadron the Flight one. I know one of the last Jax ones was a Star Wars one on ARM-based hardware. Blaster Strike. That's it. Yeah, the Pac-Man with 256 on. That is another GPO 16250 one. I mean, no, it's not well emulated at the moment. So it just about manages full speed. This one. So yeah, there's no sound at the moment. But this one is actually just an emulator in the first place. So it's less interesting to me because there's, you know, we're just emulating an emulator. And it's not the best emulator in the first place. If you look at the Gallagher port on it, there's a lot of bugs in it. So, I don't know. I'm not sold on this one as a plug and play. I keep forgetting that this is the Pac 256. I'm not even going to make it to the level 256 because I'm trying to play it like a regular Pac-Man level and use the power things to my advantage. Yeah. It's quite a hard level even before that. There, dear. Yeah, that one. Got one there, you see. Can barely reach that. You could probably hack this. I mean, it does just use ROMs. There's a couple of things that tie into specific addresses for managing the scores and stuff, but most of the Pac-Man addresses are going to use the Pac-Man hacks are going to use the same addresses. You'd probably have to find out how to encode the graphics and stuff in the format it wants, because I don't think it stores them in native format. But yeah, it's an emulator. That's why the basic system runs like about this 100 megahertz. But if I was to buy, you know, a Pac-Man home thing, a home plug and play, I'd probably go for the Jax one. What's it called? Is it the 7th one? Is it this one? No, this is just the Miss Pac-Man one. It's one of the game keys. Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer to buy this one. Yeah, it's a fairly easy version of pole position, but it works well with the spinny joystick. I like the way they've done that on it. It's just a shame they use four-way sticks only on all of these, because you can't really play Bosconian with a four-way stick. It works far better with an eight-way stick. Same with the Xevious on it. You can't play them properly because they put four-way sticks on there. At the moment, I don't think MAME forces a four-way, but it probably should. But yeah, I mean, this is a nice port of Pac-Man, I find. People say, you know, the arcade patterns don't work because they've changed the layout a little bit, squashed a few things down to fit it on a 240p screen, when ordinarily Pac-Man wouldn't quite fit. Rather than scaling, the previous one, the Connect and Play, scales the screen. But yeah, this is another good port of Pac-Man. Anyway, I'm just gonna. Hold on, just checking something. What I'm looking for. Yeah. Should we do something else? Zavix. Yeah. See, I mean, in Japan they also had this plug and play on Zavix, which is a shooter. Gaigeki Go-Go shooting. Takara thing. Again, the music's not quite how it should sound. But, you know, you've got a proper shoot 'em up game, really, on a plug and play. It's an original game on the system. It's not the most difficult. In fact, you know, last time I tried playing it, I ended up playing it for a long time. But proper shoot 'em up game on a plug and play that isn't on anything else. Yeah, Pac-Man itself, you want a four-way stick. I think they should have given maybe an adapter plate for the different type of games, so you could swap it in with the four-way and without plate, because then you could restrict it for Pac-Man and play Xevious and Bosconian normally. But maybe they just thought, it's a plug and play, we want it to just work. But I'm sure there must have been a better solution than what they went with. But yeah, this is, if you're looking at the plug and plays for an interesting, fairly well emulated one of the Japanese ones, this one on the Zavix hardware does a good, works well. Gaigeki Go-Go shooting. And the developers did some other better known things, but I can't remember off the top of my head what they are right now. Yeah, again, the Japanese plug and plays, the production value is right up there. Even a lot of the ones where I've not emulated the controls yet, you can just watch the attract modes and just see how good they look. The slot machine one, there's so many little animations, so much attention to detail. They're full-blown projects, released as if these were consoles. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's good that they've not got that much recognition yet, considering what happened with arcades and how expensive they got. At least a lot of these, if you're willing to import them, are still accessible. It is a little bit easy, but it had twin joysticks, so I think it had twin joysticks. So I think this was one of the two-player ones. But if you compared this to something like the Unspeakable Air Blaster plug and play, which crashes randomly, soft locks randomly, runs at a completely erratic rate, has terrible flicker, has the worst most spongy, unreliable joystick ever, and breaks if you continue on a boss by draining all your lives over and over, when the manual just says the bosses are powerful, you can't continue if you've reached a boss, to explain away a bug in the software. See, this even has bosses. It's not like... And they're well designed, well animated bosses. It's not like some of the NES based ones, the Jungle Attack ones, where you just get a boss that slides on the screen and it's just a bigger sprite. This is a proper boss with boss attacks. And there's a bomb attack. There you go. Falls apart. Okay, it's not quite a cave shooter, but changes colour a little bit too. Nice explosions. There's some good parallax effects later on in this too. I don't know if I'll get there. I don't want to spend too long on it. Yeah, this is one of the ones I really wanted to make sure because it was imported when we picked them up in Japan. Bingo Zappo, dear. I mean, some of those shooters on the Jungle Attack ones are quite good for what they are. You know, if I had to have a preference. And I like the helicopter one on the Kony PDC, which was on the touch version as a vertical game too. Although playing those vertically in MAME is a bit weird. You have to force the game to be rotated and redefine the controls, mouse controls. I can't do that on stream. I have to do that in advance. But yeah. Anyway, okay. I was talking about Air Blaster. For comparison, I will put up Air Blaster. This is marked not working because it actually works better in MAME than on the PC, on the joystick, and because it works too well, the timing's off, and I don't really know if we should mark it as working or not. It's just really difficult. The frame rate is entirely limited by the performance of the device, and that affects all the timing of the enemies. It's just such a badly coded piece of software. Which level do we want? I'm going to go with one of the standard looking levels. I mean, you know, you could play that or you could play this. Wait, yeah, it is really, even with keys, this is hard to control. It floats all over the place. Now, I've used one continue already. It's wonderful, isn't it? Oh dear. This is not great at all. You know, I did scan the manual for this one, which is probably the best part of it. I mean, this is the type of thing that gave plug and plays a really bad name. And it's not that it's bad. It's bad. It's this bad, and it's broken. Your chances of completing all the levels, and yeah, the game frame skips itself. I don't know why. It just does sometimes. It does on hardware. But the chance of completing all levels is really low because the 3D stages, quite often the bosses don't appear. The game will just soft lock. You have no choice but to turn it on, off and on. I think the sound broke too. The sound emulation isn't perfect. Okay, I do want to get to a boss, so bear with me on this terrible game. But yeah, you know, it's night and day with the Japanese one. Had we seen more like the Japanese one, and more like the Jax ones, I don't think the plug and plays would have such a bad reputation. Oh yeah, you do have a charge shot if you let it build up. That is you would have thought that was an emulation bug, but it just freezes the update sometime. And it's not. It happened on the hardware when I was testing it. But I don't know if it happened as frequently or less frequently because it was so bad I didn't want to play it. This is torture. Anyway, this 1 hour stream is now 2 hours 10 minutes because it's kind of gone off script, even though there wasn't really a script. Oh, there's a pause button there if you want to pause it. I will play this. I'll get to the boss. I'll likely die. I'll show you the 3D level, or one of them, because you can select any of the 5 levels at the start. Because on the surface, the 3D level looks quite nice. It doesn't play any better. There are power-ups. I've just not got any of them. I'm not going to kill a boss because it takes about 10 minutes. But, you know, as bad as this is, I'm kind of glad it's emulated in some form because you can give it to somebody and go, this is how you don't make a shooter. Oh, I didn't reach the boss. I died. Game over. Just like that. Oh, well, you don't get to see how bad the boss is. You do get to see a 3D stage. Now, look, they've got a nice background loop of it's clouds and city. And on the box, it looks like you might be getting an Afterburner clone. It looks nice. It doesn't play any better. In fact, maybe it plays... maybe it plays a bit better, but like I say, this one is prone to lock up before the bosses. It was helpful for improving the Elan hardware. It uses features that none of the other games use. So, you know, I'll give it that. It's been useful to me to improve my emulation code. The whole split effect where the cloud and background split and things like that told me where the registers were. Yeah, I think most things are a better game. You do get more bullets later. Then you get it's the refuel thing that sometimes doesn't appear. That's not the boss. Sometimes it fails here. This just never appears and it just loops forever. There you go. And you refill you. It's clearly influenced by Afterburner, but it's not a patch on Afterburner. But anyway, that is a game that we do. There are bosses. There are slight variations on the enemies. It's not worth the time finding them though. Right. Okay. I'm going to go one last game. The controls aren't perfect on this. It's meant to be a paddle game. And I'm playing on keyboard. Taito Cycle Mabu from 84. This is on the same type of hardware as Sky Destroyer. Fun little game, but would be better with paddles. You meant to try and bounce on them all and get a bounce pattern and not do that. All that. And you have to try and balance a little bit as well, forward and backwards. Nice little concept for an 84 game. But another very rare one. Yeah, this will be the last game because I did only plan on streaming for an hour and it's now been 2 hours and 15 minutes. Unless Rockman insists on me playing Roger next, then I might play Roger, but I'm not very good at it. Oh, I don't know why there are enemy spaceships. There we go, that was a good chain. It's actually quite stressful. I think if you get the rhythm down, it could be quite relaxing, but if you don't, then it's not so much. Yeah, I think with paddles it'd be a lot better, especially the next round, which is into the screen. I think the next round. And I failed on every time. It's too sensitive or not sensitive enough. It's really difficult to play. I think you've got to reach the target score, and yeah. At this point, it basically seems unplayable now. I don't know. This is why either the control emulation is bad or the sensitivity is completely wrong. The bouncing part's far better. I like the bouncing part, but this part, I'm nowhere close to the score. I mean, it's flipping from left, it's flipping direction without me pressing direction as well at times. There, I press left and it suddenly goes right again. Might be an auto-center thing. That might be that might be exactly what the problem is. It might be the auto-centering. Still weird. Yeah, I think you just probably need the real controls for this to work properly. Unfortunately, yeah. It's, no. No, that makes it worse. I don't know. I was playing it earlier. I liked the first level, the bouncy bits, but now I can't even go left. I've broken the controls. Yeah, maybe the controls hookup's just completely wrong, or there's some protection for this level. Can't tell you, but that's as far as I can get in the game. Because if you don't meet the score, which I guess is 4,400, it's game over. So I might have to look at the driver and see if it's a problem, or just say, if you want to play that, the first level was fun, but then you need real controls. I really don't know. It's marked as working, but I didn't work on the emulation of that one myself. So I don't know. At least I didn't work on any of the control side of things. Okay. That was shorter than I expected. I'm bad at this one. This is one I mentioned to Rockman earlier. Data East, Roga. The second game in the Cougar series, Vapor Trail series, after Vapor Trail and before Skullfang. I'm bad at this game. You select your configuration of your player. Yeah, construct your robot. Or use a pre-built one. Construct mode. I want that. I want a beam sword. I want 4 legs. I've got a spider robot. Yeah, there's some new features in the controller screen. I think MAME's analog handling could still be greatly improved, especially if you're using pads. Well, there's probably a new version out on Wednesday. For 227, I do warn you that a few things were broken. I mean, when Rampart was fixed, Gauntlet broke, unfortunately, and Peter Pack-Rat broke. 227 will fix that. And Battletoads also broke in 227. So, might be worth waiting till Wednesday when the next release is out to update. I don't know. It does seem like a couple of issues with 227 were fixed over the course of this cycle. But if you upgrade to now from 222, there's less upgrading to do when the next one comes out. So, yeah, this one was badly emulated until about 7 years ago, when the protection was improved. Of all the trilogy, this one is probably the best game. Especially because you can build your own character from all the different configuration parts, which is a nice touch in any game. And oh dear. Now we've gone all like Boogie Wings again, where I'm basically on foot. I think they must have liked that mechanic. And I died. I can select a different type of ship. Yeah, I would advise waiting if you're going to upgrade everything for the next release, because I think it's a bit more stable. There were a lot of change because 227 was a 2 month between the releases, and so quite a few things didn't get tested for in that time, because usually when a release happens is when people start testing it. And with it being 2 releases, there were a build-up of changes that hadn't been fully tested by the end users. And since once 227 was out, we got all the reports of, oh, Gauntlet's broken, yeah, we better fix that. And they're fixed up, because it was also quite a complex cycle in terms of changes. Lots of memory system changes and the like. So, 227 overall, probably not the best release. Wait for 228. On Wednesday. I'll do that. It's I'll do that. Yeah. In fact, you can hold fire on this one. That makes things easier. I'm very surprised this got an English release, but I guess Vapor Trail did. And Skullfang did. It just feels like one of those games you'd almost expect to be left in Japan. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you played this one earlier after I mentioned it, but if you like this type of game, this mechanic, and yeah, play it. It's got 2-player option as well. It's the same font as 2 Crude Dudes, isn't it? It looks very similar, at least. Maybe? Or am I just seeing things? Where's enemies correctly coloured? We've got a bug here. I'm not sure, I'll have to check that out off stream. let's go back to them. I think they're right, they're just flashing, aren't they? Although, I don't know. I'll see if I can find a reference. Yeah. Oh, they are both Data East games. Just surprises me that they've used the same font because they're very different Data East games. I do like Root Buster. Okay. This is kind of bad design, putting trees in front of the player, but... I mean, this has got the whole close range attack and the long distance attack, so sometimes you have to jump in close to use the sword attack. I keep forgetting I've got bombs as well, I can do that. You can't change everything about your mechs after the initial selection, so some things like the bomb are permanent. It kind of went on a bit. You know, I got talking to people and thought, yeah, we'll have a look at this and that, and then something else, and yeah, I think, yeah, it happens. I know I was watching some of HazeMaker64's Twitch streams where the same has happened. He'll be, oh, I'll finish in a bit, and then he'll end up playing another game or another hour of a game. No, it's okay. The distraction is good. I've enjoyed the company. You know, I set an hour as an estimate, but if people are enjoying it and you know, seeing the games, I'm happy to be here showing a few things off that maybe people weren't aware of. I mean, I put this one on because I was talking with Rockman earlier on Twitch. On Twitter. And the subject of Data East came up because of the Boogie stream. He wasn't aware of that, so you know, I said, have you played this one? He's like, no, wasn't aware of that either. No, good to see you still here, Panda, and everybody else. You know. But also, you know, if people are just dropping in and out and not saying anything in the chat, that's also that's what's good. You know, as long as people are enjoying it, and I say learn something. Discover something. Same for anybody on catch up. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Oh, I can use that bomb. Charges, okay. I'm glad to hear that. So much is covered, especially when you start looking at the non-arcade stuff like those plug and plays. I think even if I've done a lot of coverage of them on my own site, not everybody's fully aware of them, or they've just seen the screenshots and not looked at them more, so seeing them on stream might help. I think I am going to call it there though, because like it has been 2.5 hours now, and as tempting it is to put some other stuff on, probably better to end it. So to everybody in the chat who has been participating and everybody who's just been lurking, and thank you. And I'm going to try and do streams like this a bit more often, so I don't know when the next one will be, but it could be at any point. Could be tomorrow, could be a week from now. Hopefully it won't be another year again or whatever I left it last time, but it's yeah, Mega Phoenix, the remakes of an unofficial remake of Phoenix just felt like a nice place to start, and I didn't play it very well at all. I think I probably got better at the games as I went along, or didn't notice I was as bad at them, but I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, good night everybody, and thank you for dropping by, and I will hopefully see you all soon.